What is up, everyone? Brandon First, aka First Report, representing the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are first. It is time for the Saturday edition preview of the Breeders' Cup here on the original Call to Post. By far our biggest and most anticipated episode of the season. We are, of course, recording on the 2nd of November, just 48 hours or even less than, if you really want to get into it, for these races to get rolling. Oh boy, 9 races to break down. And when I say we, I mean myself and my co-host and friend, Raider Jim Martinez. You can find Mr. Martinez at Raider Jim 1090. How you doing tonight, sir?
Well, I'm telling you, here it is, my friend. It's Christmas Eve for you and me. We can't stand it when it gets to be this close to the Breeders' Cup. And, I've been watching the pre-day stuff for the Friday meet. And then, of course, right after that, they'll all get together, have some dinner and have some drinks. But they won't be staying out late and partying because they have work to do on Saturday. As Brandon just said, we're going to talk about Saturday today. Folks, this is 9 races over 100 entries. It is just one of the biggest ticket sessions that you're ever going to see on a regular racing year. So buckle up because we've got lots to talk about.
Definitely not when we do the NFL and we do kind of the Super Bowl preview, there's a little bit of fluff. We got to find our way to get to 30 minutes or 35 minutes without just coming on and saying, I like this team to cover. Thanks for listening. Bye. We don't have to worry about that on this episode. A lot to get to. We do, of course, have those 9 races for the Breeders' Cup on Saturday, I should say, to break down. Unfortunately, we do have some housekeeping to take care of before we dive into that. I believe we mentioned it on Tuesday's show, or the Friday preview, if you will, the Future Star Friday preview, about Practical Move. Unfortunately, after an incident during a workout, was fortunately had to be put down. Some issues there. After we got done recording the NFL podcast yesterday, I did see that Breeders' Cup contender Go Rocket Ride, unfortunately, was euthanized. We go back to last Saturday. Went out for a workout, and I'm just going to read now from Blood Horse. This is a Blood Horse blurb about it. It said, during morning training, October 28th, the 3-year-old son of Candy Ride, referring to Go Rocket Ride, was pulled up soon after entering the stretch of a scheduled 7-furlong breeze under jockey Mike Smith. He appeared to stumble in the mid-stretch, and Smith quickly brought Go Rocket Ride down to a halt, dismounted, and helped support the colt's injured leg until the on-track ambulance arrived. Go Rocket Ride sustained a displaced condylar fracture, apologies if I mispronounced that, and a suspensory ligament damage in his right foreleg. Was in surgery to fix the issues. Unfortunately, after 2 or 3 days, was unable to stand and was euthanized. So another horse. Now, Go Rocket Ride was obviously scratched on Saturday, or at least taken out of the eligibles because of that. Really, really sad stuff. Obviously, same thing with Practical Move. This is not the way we want to start Breeders' Cup weekend anytime, regardless. But it is unfortunate that once again we do have to talk about this. But Raider Jim, what are your thoughts?
Well, of course, Go Rocket Ride, a horse that we've talked about a lot, one that I have followed, was in my virtual stable for sure. But this really goes to the image that you just talked about. It goes to something that we have talked about on this program, time in and time out. Here you've got the 105-pound Mike Smith, 105, 110 pounds, recognizes there's something wrong, pulls the horse up, dismounts, and this guy that is outweighed by 900 pounds helps support the leg because he knows that that horse can't stand on its own. And that just tells you the kind of care that these trainers, the jockeys, the handlers all have for these horses. But just breaks my heart, because anybody who has ever lost a pet, lost an animal, uh, and the time has come. It's never easy. This is a virtually healthy horse, but because of the injury, and they said this horse came out of the surgery just fine,
Yeah.
healthy horse. This horse was in great health, but could not support itself, and horses cannot live in that condition.
Yeah, it's very, very sad, and hate to keep beating the same drum over and over and over again, but we're putting the bat signal up for the Horse Racing and Safety and Integrity Act, but it doesn't look like Batman is home at the moment. So this is just something that's all we can do right now. Like you said, Mike Smith, obviously a veteran jockey. I think a high majority of jockeys would have done the same in that
Oh yeah.
situation. I just you kind of brought up the fact I did read. I think it was either Monday night into Tuesday or Tuesday night into Wednesday. They were actually very enthused at what they had seen from Rocket Ride. Unfortunately, the next morning, they had to kind of make the decision. I can't imagine just kind of going through that. Obviously, anytime a horse is euthanized, it is heartbreaking. But to kind of go through this for 3 days and be there by this horse's side, I don't know. It's very difficult to talk about. And hopefully we talk about it a lot less. This seems like I want to say we've recorded, I don't know, let's just say 20 original Call to Post this year, and 15 of them, this is how we start.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can get that number down. Hopefully we can get the government issues that are, the tools that are there. Let's hopefully put them to use soon. Who knows? At the very least, maybe this is a bit of a wake-up call to those people to say, hey, maybe it is time that we stop focusing on this or that and focus on what we've been brought in to do. So that's what we can hope for, at least. But with that being said, unfortunately, as they say, the show must go on, and that's what's going to happen here. We are going to start chronologically. Of course, this is, as we said, Saturday, Santa Anita Breeders' Cup Day, or at least day 2, if you will. All of these races, at the very least, are going to be $1 million, and all of these races are for 3-year-olds and up. We do have some certain races that will be gender specific, but we are going to start. This will be get rolling 2:30 Eastern, 11:30 Pacific. It's going to be the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, going, yes, you guessed it, 1 mile on, you guessed it again, the dirt. As I said, $1 million purse here in this one. I'll get this one started. Look, unfortunately, the battle that I think we all kind of maybe expected or were hoping for was going to be Practical Move and Cody's Wish. As we just talked about, that won't be the case. But with that being said, Cody's Wish, either way, I think both ways, even if we did see Practical Move here, would probably come off as the favorite. It was 9-5 on the morning line. Cody's Wish is a horse we've talked about. It seems like 80% of the times when we talk about these big races, these big fields, Cody's Wish, in my mind, I think would be the favorite in the Classic. The connections decided that the Breeders' Cup Turf, or Dirt Mile, I should say, will be the race where we see Cody's Wish. This is the defending champ. I like Cody's Wish. A little bit of a step back in the Whitney, running only a 95, but this is a horse that has been essentially in the hundreds its entire career. 15 career runs. 10 of them have finished in the winner's circle. All of them have finished in the money, over 2.5 million there. I don't know about the value here. Currently 9-5. Losing Practical Move, I think, is going to drop that number down even lower. So probably 4-5 when it all is all said and done. The other horse that I'm keeping an eye on is the 7 horse, Algiers. This isn't normally where we see the Irish horses kind of make their mark. We normally see them on the turf, but Algiers is a horse that definitely caught my eye. Has spent pretty much most of its career in Europe or the UAE. However, did come to North America in October, ran in the the Durham Cup up at Woodbine, Wasn't great, ran a 92 on the synthetic, but I really do like the speed figures overall back in UAE. The time form of 124 and 121, that's enough to get me going. And 6-1, I think there's a lot of value there. Another horse is the 9 horse, National Treasure. This is a horse I've been keeping my eye on really since Triple Crown season. It is a Bob Baffert horse. This horse did win the Preakness. I like the speed numbers here. We're going to need to see a big bump. We need to get back to the Preakness numbers. Since the 98 in the Preakness, a 93, 91, 94, which pretty much any other weekend, you're talking about the favorite with those buyers, but on Breeders' Cup weekend, at the end of the day, those speed numbers aren't good enough. A 94 is not going to win this race, so we're going to need to see a little bit of a jump there. And the other horse as well, Charge It, is currently the 5 horse. We'll need to see a repeat of the run in July at Belmont in the Suburban where it ran a 106. Unfortunately, last 2 runs have not been at that number, but this horse does return to a mile where it was very good in the Metropolitan Handicap. Unfortunately, even in that race, as good as it was, not good enough to beat Cody's Wish. I just think this is Cody Wish's race to lose. And this will be the last time we see Cody's Wish. This horse will be retired after this race. And more than likely you do, but if you don't know the backstory of this horse and young Cody, please make sure you go check that out as well. But Raider Jim, what are your thoughts on the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile?
Yeah, this is it. And it's as you said, you kind of hit on it already. We thought the match race was going to be, was it Practical Move?
Yeah.
Practical Move and Cody's Wish. Practical Move is 3-1 at the morning line. Now, keep in mind, folks, these are the morning lines that came out a couple days ago that we're giving you. These morning lines are going to change not only tomorrow when people really start hitting the track and maybe they've got 2-day tickets, maybe they're only going to be there on Friday and they wanted to say they made their bet at the track, plus on Saturday, the real numbers are going to start changing. 11:30 Pacific time on Saturday. The odds on these horses are just going to go all over the place. The money for Practical Move is going to go somewhere. I don't know if a lot of people are going to put it just on Cody's Wish. So keep an eye on the numbers. They're going to be changing. I like the horses, a lot of them that you said. Charge It is one of the ones I have out there, but you already alluded to the fact. Charge It kind of been off the last couple times out at 5-1. I see that horse going to maybe a 6-1, maybe even a little higher than that. But I do like 7 Algiers. I also like number 4 Zozos. Zozos, I think, is at 6-1. That's not a bad value and might make some surprises. But if you don't want to go with Charge It and Zozos and you're looking for something underneath, or maybe you want to go Algiers, Zozos, but you want one more to fill in underneath, watch the 6 horse Skippy Longstocking at 12-1. You want a horse to put in under on your ticket. Skippy Longstocking is not a stretch. This horse has some speed in the 6th position. It's nice, right in the middle of the pack, so that's going to be good. Going back to Cody's Wish, the favorite, you said it. Took a little step back in the Whitney Stakes, got the show position, which is nothing to sneeze at. But after running off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trips to the winner's circle, that 3rd place finish made a lot of people go, uh-oh. Yeah, that was until they ran the last race back in October 1 and won handily on that one, back to the winner's circle. Now, 1 year ago, almost to the day, what happened? Cody's Wish ran in the Big Ass Fans Dirt Mile at the 22 Breeders' Cup and ended up in the winner's circle. Look for a repeat on this one.
Yeah, one thing to keep an eye, if you are kind of finding maybe, and this isn't even necessarily a chink in Cody's Wish's armor, there is a lot of early speed in this race. Like essentially everybody but Cody's Wish wants to be within a length of the leader as they get ready to make that first turn. Only one is going to be able to be there. So I guess my only question is, do they run away from Cody's Wish? Keep an eye on that. That's definitely something to keep an eye on. You brought up Skippy Longstocking. I really wanted to go there, but I think this horse is going to jump out to the lead. I kind of try and build these races how I think they're going to go. I would expect Skippy Longstocking to get out very, very quickly. And Cody's Wish is a fantastic closer. So keep that in mind. If you do have a Cody's Wish ticket, do not crumple it up when they're in the back stretch and Cody's Wish is 5 or 6 lengths off the lead. That's kind of where Cody's Wish wants to be. But once again, this is a Breeders' Cup race, so it's not your normal running down the tomato cans towards the end. So moving on to what will be race number 4 on Santa Anita's ticket. Also, just a little background. There are 12 races on this card. 11 of them are either grade 2 or grade 1s. Race 1 and 2, feel free to go check those out. Both grade 2. So this is the top card of the year at Santa Anita. But for race 4, the one we're going to be focusing on, it is the grade 1 Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf, going 1.25 miles on the downhill turf. 4 fillies and mares. This is a $2 million purse. Raider Jim, what are your thoughts? Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf.
Tell you what, there's 12 entries in this race, 11 international. We got everything from Japan to Argentina, Great Britain, and Ireland. I think we have 1 North American entry in the 4 spot, which isn't even on my ticket, because in Italian is Great Britain, and that's in the 1 spot. However, as good as In Italian has been, In Italian isn't at the caliber, and that's not slighting the thoroughbred at all. This is just one talented field, and you really have to look. If you aren't following the international horses, you really have to look at their backgrounds and see what they've done. My favorite in this one is the 2-horse Warm Heart. I think Warm Heart is going to come out and just burn the track. And right now you can get Warm Heart at 3-1. That's a Great Britain horse. And I do have In Italian, but that's actually, to give you an idea, In Italian I've got down as my under, because the other horse I like right after Warm Heart is number 8, Bev Rover. And then I've got number 6, Inspirial. I think these horses, we're going to see a whole different caliber of race in this one. I'm trying to do this without my glasses, so forgive me. I might have to call on you.
Yep, I'm ready.
We've got, the distance on this one is
1.25 miles.
Mile and a quarter. So at 1.25 miles, it's still going to be a fast pace. It's going to be a great race to watch. Warm Heart is fast out of the gate. And if Warm Heart gets that good break along with Inspirial and Bev Rover, it's just going to be a fun race to watch. But again, nothing wrong with In Italian. I'm not saying In Italian won't finish in the money. I'm just saying I think it's going to have to really work hard to make it.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I really do like In Italian. Not a huge fan of the post position, but this is a fast horse, so I do expect it to get out of the gate quickly. But you did talk about, you got Warm Heart there on your right. That does kind of, going to probably push the pace as well. Just looking at In Italian, looking at the last 6 races, this horse has been in front essentially the entirety, except there's 3 races where it finished second. But this horse wants to be on the lead and wants to stay on the lead, which is fantastic. However, I'm looking at a lot of miles, and 1 mile and an 1/8 and 1 mile and a 1/16. And look, I'm not great at fractions, but I do know 1.25 miles longer than that. So you do wonder if that extra 1/4 mile, is that In Italian's kryptonite, if you will? I do like the value at 4-1 for In Italian, definitely on my ticket. Another horse to keep an eye on, I believe is the favorite. It's the 6-horse Inspirial. I think the value here is going to be an issue, but if you throw out, there was a run, the Sussex Stakes, it looks like, running out in Great Britain in August, but every other one of those has been in the time form in the high one teens or 100 teens. So that's something that got my attention. Once again, I think value is going to be a big issue for me there. Another horse to keep an eye on as well is this pure value pick, but I think the speed numbers, or at least the time form numbers, do jump out to me. Admittedly, not the best at handicapping European horses, but the 11 horse Lumineer Rock. This is a horse that's ran very well, and at 12-1, look, I'll take a chance and see what this horse can do. I think there's a lot of value, and I think when you're talking about essentially all of these races being world-class horses, sometimes the value has to, be a big part of it. So keep an eye there on Lumineer Rock. I really do like that horse as well. Moving on to race number 5 on the card. It's going to be the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. This race is going to be on the dirt, going 7 furlongs, 4 fillies and mares, 3-year-old and up. We have a $1 million purse. I'll get this one started. I think at the top of the ticket it's the one horse, Goodnight Olive. I think it's the class of the field, and I don't even really think it's close. However, sprint races are kind of crazy. So keep that in mind. Currently 6-5 on the morning line. Unless that gets inflated, which I don't expect, you're going to have to find some exotics underneath. A couple here for you. Ida, the 3 horse, is 10-1. It's a Baffert horse. I really like the speed figures on this one. We're going to need to see a bump up. Last time out, only ran an 83. Not terribly impressive, but at 10-1, big time value pick. Maitreya is the 4 horse at 6-1. I really love the jockey trainer combo. Flavian Pratt, Brad Cox, can't go wrong there. A long layoff. Last time we saw this horse was in August, late August, at Saratoga. So 3+ months off. We'll see how that affects this horse. And the final horse I did want to talk about is Society. I think the second favorite in this one. Tried to go 2 turns back in May, and I think they realized, okay, this is a sprint horse. Came back and posted back-to-back 105s and 106s. The value, I think, might inflate if a lot of that money goes to Goodnight Olive. If I could get Society at 3-1, I'll feel very, very good about that. The one thing I will say about those 105 and 106s from Society last 2 times out have been in a Grade 3 and an ungraded stakes race. So you are stepping up big. Going from a Grade 3 and ungraded stakes race going to essentially the Grade 1 plus, as I talked about on Tuesday. That's what we have here. But Raider Jim, what are your thoughts on the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint?
Yeah, Society is on my ticket as one to watch, but same thing. I think it ran a black type stakes.
Yeah.
A Grade 3 maybe out there, but nothing really that made me go, wow, that horse is going to compete against Goodnight Olive. I really see number 4 Maitreya at 6-1 being a better value and more of a chance to give a race to Goodnight Olive. Part of the reason I say that is the last time out, Goodnight Olive placed to Echo Zulu, which that's like saying you lost a race to Michael Johnson or Usain Bolt. But Goodnight Olive got the place against Echo Zulu and beat out Maitreya in that race. So that's going to be one to watch because they're familiar with each other. They're going to be back out on the track. For Maitreya to be at 6-1 is really a head scratcher and might be a real good value. For another underneath horse, along with Society, if you want to put Society, Maitreya on your ticket, the 5 horse at 10-1, Kirstenbosch. This is a fast horse. This horse has got some come from behind in it. And don't be surprised if Kirstenbosch kind of ruins the party, if you will, and ends up in the money and takes out Society and or Maitreya. Even the 9 horse at 8-1, and we don't want to go too crazy. I mean, it's a 10, 12 horse field, and I'm going to give you 6 horses to look at. But even the 9 horse Ugiri at 8-1 is not a bad value. It's actually good value and actually according to the odds makers, a better shot than Kirstenbosch right now. I just think Kirstenbosch has a lot of fire in it to come in there and make a good. Again, it's a sprint, as you said. You and I saw. I think it was a couple years ago. We were high on Jackie's Warrior,
Yeah.
and Jackie's Warrior tripped and stumbled, and just never really regained the footing in one of the races. It's like, well, there goes that. So, as you said, anything can happen.
Yeah, and a couple things I just wanted to add on. This goes for both the 5 Kirstenbach and the 3 Ida. This is kind of a home track advantage for these 2 horses. Kirstenbosch, this will be its 11th race at Santa Anita. Has been in the money. Let's see, 7 out of those 10 times. Only 2 winners, but I've always kind of felt, look, you got some of these horses coming from Europe or even back east. Kirstenbosch's travel was essentially from the stable to the barn. That's their travel there. Same thing with Ida as well. This will be Ida's 6th race. 4 wins at Santa Anita and 1 show run in that one for Ida. So keep an eye on those. But yeah, I think you're gonna have to find some value after Goodnight Olive.
And one other thing, if I may, on Goodnight Olive, to keep in mind, because sometimes it's just one of those stories that's already predestined, pre-written, and you just hope the end of the book is just like you think it's going to be. This is supposed to be Goodnight Olive's last race. Goodnight Olive is going to retire after this. Chad Brown said it's going to be hard to say goodbye to her. She's been a fantastic horse. And his statement was to the effect, I just felt she deserved one more chance to go out and show everybody who she is. And going to be ridden by Irad Ortiz, who just kind of gave the Irad Ortiz smile and nod and said, yeah, she's ready. And so it's like, okay, that was enough for me. I mean, again, value in it? No, unless you got a lot of money, you can make some money on it. But watch for Goodnight Olive to be the one to beat.
Yeah, this is and to kind of echo what she said, there are going to be a lot of horses. This is kind of the trainers, if they could, pick when this horse is going to run its last race, it will be at Breeders' Cup weekend. That's everyone's perfect world. And some of these horses could go out as champions. We saw that, of course, last year with Flightline, even though I still wish we could have seen that horse run this year, but I'm getting over it little by little. Anyways, moving on to race number 6 on the card, it is going to be the Breeders' Cup Mile. Yes, going a mile on the turf in this one. The purse is $2 million on this one. Raider Jim, what are your thoughts? The Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Mile.
Oh, I certainly like the current favorite at 5-2 is Songline, the number 10 horse. And I think Songline not only has is fast out of the gate, but I think Songline is going to be the one to beat. However, there's horses out there. Again, every horse is capable of winning. And we've seen it on Derby Day. We've seen it in the Oaks. We've seen it through any of the big grade 1s throughout the year. All of a sudden, you get somebody at 40-1 that runs up and beats everybody, and you're just kind of throw your hands in the air. All those horses are still out there, so we're giving you your best choices in our minds and in our opinion. Songline at 5-2. I also like the 6 horse Maui. That's an Irish horse, 4-1 right now. Also a good, good record, good closer. There's a horse out there on the outside, number 14, Master of Seas. Most of the times I would tell you right now at 7-2, not bad, good odds. And Master of Seas is a fantastic competitor. However, from what I've read, the outside draw for this horse isn't favorable. And 14 wide, and you got to break in, and you got to find your spot. And there's going to be a lot of jockeying, no pun intended. Master of Seas at 7-2. Normally, I'd be all over that. Still might consider it, but I don't like the draw on that one. And then, of course, we could not talk about this race without talking about one that we've mentioned so many times. And at 8-1, a great value. I believe the best races might be behind it, but still, on the big stage, number 3, Casa Creed. I've got to have Casa Creed on my ticket, more of a sentimental thing than anything. But you and I have talked about Casa Creed too many times for me to not include that horse on my ticket. And like I say, any given race, those horses are going to go out there. 4 races this year, has finished in the money 4 times, got a show, got a place, got 2 trips to the winner's circle. So by all means, the Casa Creed still has what it takes. As a matter of fact, last time out, took first place in a grade 1, got a grade 3
4-star Dave,
and then showed in a grade 1 prior to that. So don't count out Casa Creed. When I say the best races are behind it, just kind of a little slower calendar this year. But hey, if you're going out there and winning like Casa Creed does, very good chance to win this one.
Yeah, this race, I think, is just the perfect kind of microcosm for how hard this weekend truly is. I like all those picks. I'll add one more as well. And a big reason why is it's not too often that you see a horse that over its last 6 runs, 94, 95, 90, 93, 95, 95, and those buyer scores, It's going off at 30-1. I got my eye on the 7 horse, Master of Foxhound. Got Philip D'Amato and Edwin Maldonado, excuse me. But 30-1, I don't know if this horse is gonna, even get in the money, but at 30-1, I'll pay to get into that party. So it's so difficult because pretty much any other weekend, this horse at the very least is 8-1. Maybe even lower than that. And now in this race, it's 30-1. So keep an eye on Master of Foxhounds. Once again, I don't think this horse is going to get in the money because of how good this field is. But goodness gracious, 30-1. Like I said, I would kick myself if this horse gets in the money and I'm stuck holding Songline's ticket. It won, but at 5-2 or even money, however it's going to go, because I do think Songline is the best horse here. I did have the 14 horse as my number 2. However, you kind of did put a little seed of doubt in me, which is good because that outside post is not good, especially just kind of reading a little blurb right here. This is a horse that loves not only inside draws, but loves post position 1. Well, post position 14, that's as far from 1 as you can get. One other horse I do want to keep an eye on, Master of Foxhounds and this horse, pure value to kind of come underneath for the 2 that I just talked about. But keep an eye on the 2 horse, Gino Romantica. Ton of value here. Yes. Last 2 ones. I go back. I got to go all the way back to August of 2022 at Saratoga. And then even last time out, October 7th at Keeneland. The last 2 times this horse has gone off at 10-1 or higher, the horse has won. Now, once again, that's not how you should just fully go about how you bet horses. However, ton of value for a horse that has ran at long odds and won at long odds. Last time out won the Fast Lady at Keeneland, going off at 11.5-1. You hit any of these horses double digits to 1, you're going to be feeling pretty darn good about yourself, as long as you bet smart and you don't go crazy on 1 and then drop your units down. But if you stay consistent, you're going to need to look for value. And I do think Gino Romantica is a horse you can find some value in. Moving on to a race that for me has always kind of been my most anticipated, or the race that I've always looked forward to the most. Maybe not so much this year, but still very, very interesting. It is going to be race 7. The Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Distaff. It is going to be for 3-year-old and up fillies or fillies. The purse here is $2 million. And we are going 1 mile and 1/8 on the dirt. I'll get this one started. The first horse that jumps out to me, I believe, is the favorite. It's going to be the 4 horse, Idiomatic. Last 4 runs have been 102, 100, 101, and 100. Currently 5-2. I'd take it right now. Honestly, I think the horse is that good, and that's probably the lowest I'll go. Anything lower than 5-2, probably have to go find some other value. And luckily, I think there is a ton of value elsewhere as well. I don't quite know where Clariere's odds are going to end up, but at 4-1, sign me up, take my money, and let's enjoy this race. Clariere is the vet of this group. Clariere is kind of the original fly in the champagne, and go back to I think it was against Monomoy Girl. Might have been like the Flower Bowl or whatever a few years back, but we were all wondering Malathot versus Monomoy Girl versus Swiss Skydiver, and here comes Clariere. And ever since then, Clariere has been on my radar. It's a 5-year-old. It's going to be really interesting to see how Clariere does at 4-1. I love that number. 2 other horses I want to also touch on. The 6-horse search results. Look, it had Flavian Pratt, fantastic jockey, and Joel Rosario and Tyler Gaffleone. It's kind of been a hot potato of who's going to be on board. Well, it's back to Irad Ortiz, and I really do like what Irad Ortiz does with this horse. Last time Irad had the reins, it ran a 102, and at the same time, it's Chad Brown and Irad Ortiz. I don't think you can go wrong there, and currently at 5-1, I like those odds. Last horse I want to talk about, like these, I'm taking kind of chalk here, but it's the way the race is going to go. It's the 5-horse, Adair Manor. Lives in the 90s. 5 out of the 6 runs this year have finished in the winner's circle. And, you know, the only time it did not finish in the winner's circle, you have to go all the way back to February. This horse hasn't gone off at anything higher than even money. And we're talking about essentially 0.9 to 1. That's the most value this horse has gotten this year. Ironically, it was that race that it did lose in. So it's the first time you've seen Adair Manor anywhere near these type of numbers, at least odds wise. So keep an eye there. I really think these 4 horses, I'm going to try and find the value about 5 or 10 minutes before this race gets rolling, once all kind of the dust has settled. But Raider Jim, what are your thoughts? The Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Distaff.
Yeah, this particular race, it's historic for, of course, the fastest break is probably going to give you, you know, those are going to be the horses to watch in this particular field. The 2 fastest starters you have are number 4, the favorite, Idiomatic at 5-2, and the one you just spoke of, the 5-horse, Adair Manor at 4-1. Very fast starter. Those should be, and they're going to be neighbors. They're in the 4th and 5th positions. You should see those 2 break out first. How far they can break, how far of a lead they can get. These aren't the rabbits. They're not starting fast to give somebody a pace. They're starting fast to win. And so how fast, how much can they get ahead? That's to be, you know, we got to wait and see what happens there. But if those 2 break like they can, it's going to be a great race and a very fast pace. I do like the 4-horse Idiomatic at 5-2. I like Adair Manor, number 5 at 4-1. And randomized. As you said, the 8-horse 6-1, you just can't go wrong with that horse. So at this stage of the game, my underneath horse would probably be Clairiere at 4-1. Yeah. And how wild is that to say that a horse like that is going to be your under horse and cross your fingers and hope it finishes in the money. But I think definitely Clairiere still has what it takes. And I believe I misspoke when I talked about Casa Creed. It's Clairiere that's had a couple of rough starts the last couple times out. But still, Clairiere, it's one race, one day. It's that any given Sunday thing, like they say in football. It's one race. How are you going to do for this next, 2 minutes and 25 seconds to be seen? I also like 6 search results at 5-1. But that gives you a 5th horse that you would have to play around with if you want to get do a lot of exotics or do a few different combinations. You wouldn't be going wrong with putting 6 on there.
Yeah, and just to kind of confuse everyone even a little more, I'll add a little bit into the pot as well. The 3-horse, Pretty Mischievous. This is your Kentucky Oaks champ.
Yeah,
did take a little bit of a step back in the test. Ran only an 87. However, he still won that race. Last time out in the Cotillion, went off as the favorite, did not get the job done, lost off by a half length to Ceiling Crusher. But Pretty Mischievous is definitely a horse. This is a wide open field. And, even we talked about, in the really early look to this, we talked about Hoosier Philly. With all due respect to Hoosier Philly, I don't see how this horse gets anywhere near the money just because of the overall quality in this race. So moving on, I am going to call a little bit of an audible because I am a silent protest. Oh no, not yet. Excuse me. I jumped the gun there. We're sticking with the play that was called for now. Moving on to race number 8. It is going to be the Breeders' Cup, or the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Turf. This is a $4 million race. And if you do get a chance to kind of see the way this race is ran, it's very interesting because essentially, if you really want to get into it, this could be considered a 3-turn race, going 1.5 miles. Santa Anita kind of has a little bit of an offshoot, jumps you out up top. You run down what seems to be the backstretch, but it isn't. It's just kind of an extension. So a little different here. But Raider Jim, will give you the honors to get us started on the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Turf.
This is going to be a fantastic race. Horse, let's see. I got to make sure I get it right. I don't want to quote anybody's destination or where they're from. Ireland. I like the 9-horse. 9-horse, Mosted Off at 5-2 right now. Mosted Off. This is a big, strong horse. Watch for it to really make a great international showing, as will the number 5 horse, Auguste Rodin, I think is how you would say that name. This is the one race where I actually have a couple of longer odds or higher odds than any other race, because after a 5-2 and number 9 Mosted Off, number 5 at 3-1 Auguste Rodin, I like the 12 horse Warlike Goddess at 12-1, and I also like the one horse on the rail out of Japan. I'm going to say it wrong, Sharier, I think. I'm just going to go with Sharier at 15-1. But let me tell you what, that horse has some speed. So number 1 on the rail, I think a perfect draw for that horse. Going to come out here. I'm sure it's been out here training long enough that, we're not going to have any lags or jet lags. Actually has been having really good workouts, is a fantastic earner. So watch for that number 1 horse. I like 9, 5, 12, and 1 in this race.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on the 9 and the 5. I think those horses are, I mean, the 9 horse, some of the highest time form ratings I've ever seen, 129, 128, and that's, in grade 1s. So it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, a huge international flair. I also do want to add onto that. Let me just make sure. King of Steel did kind of jump out to me as well. Yes. Another horse that's in the high 120 or the low 120s on the time form side of things. This is, I talked about it on Tuesday. This technically is a North American bred horse. However, does its racing in, Great Britain, it looks like, Ireland, which I'm still confused with because I'm pretty sure Ireland and Great Britain are the same thing. But once again, that's for another podcast. So keep an eye there on the King of Steel in that one. And let me just make sure I don't get this one wrong. The 8 horse, up to the mark, 5-1, not a ton of value. But the last 3 runs have been 103, 105, 100, all on the turf, all in grade 1s, all wins. Keep an eye. I do wonder if, up to the mark kind of gets lost in the shuffle when everyone's figuring out, between this horse, that horse, the international. Does that 5-1 maybe go up to 7 or 8-1, which I would love, because you got Todd Pletcher and Irad Ortiz aboard. And I think there's definitely some value there. You already spoke about Warlike Goddess, another horse at 12-1. That's how you know it's a Breeders' Cup race. This is a horse that's coming off of a grade 1, 105 buyer score to win, and it's coming in at 12-1. So plenty of value with Warlike Goddess. Really interested to see how this race goes. And once again, it's a really, really odd kind of layout for the track, the way this race is going to go. Like I said, essentially a 3-turn race. Moving on, and this is the audible I'm calling. I think Raider Jim already knows where I'm going. So technically, race number 9 is the Breeders' Cup Classic, but look, that's the main event. We don't talk about the main event 3 races before we end it. So a little bit of an audible. We're going to jump ahead to race number 10. This is going to be the the grade 1 Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. We're going 5 furlongs on the turf. This is open for 3-year-olds. I'll get this one started. First horse that jumps out to me is possibly the favorite. Didn't fully look it over, but definitely one of the, looks like the favorite. It's going to be the 5 horse at 9-2, Live in the Dream out of Ireland. This horse has only won 550,000, which this weekend is essentially peanuts for a lot of these earners coming in. However, I really do like what this horse has done on the turf. I look at that run. It looks like the Nunthorpe Stakes. It was a grade 1 run at York in Great Britain. August 25th this horse ran a 123, currently 9-2. I really like that. And not only because it's trained by Adam West. No, not that Adam West, but we can kind of make believe. So keep an eye there. The 10 horse is the other one that jumps out to me. Motorious. Another horse running in the low 100s on the turf. The only thing I will say, Motorious last 3 runs, 2 in the winner's circle, 1 finished second. That one that we saw this horse finish second, unfortunately, it fell to Nobles, who is running in this race. Another horse to keep an eye on. It's been running very, very well of late. but we'll need a little bit of a bump up. We'll need definitely closer to that turf sprint run 102 run that it had to beat Motorius. The last horse I want to talk about, pure value, is the 6 horse Gear Jockey. Look, you look at some of these numbers and you go, whoa, hold on a second, because you go back to November of last year. Unfortunately, this horse hasn't been ran a whole lot this year, but even back at Aqueduct, excuse me, ran a 64. And then came back in July after a long layoff and ran a 59. And that is looking like, what is going on? Came back in the turf sprint at 23-1, got the job done, ran a 99, kind of got back on track. 12-1, I really do like that those odds. And it's not too often that I also say keep an eye on an also eligible, but the 13 one-timer, unfortunately, couldn't get in regularly, so I'm not sure if one-timer is going to be able to make it in. I do believe will be kind of that first alternate if one of these horses is a late scratch. If that is the case, keep an eye on one-timer. Last 5 races have been 96 and above. Not too shabby for an also eligible at 8-1. But Raider Jim, what are your thoughts on the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint?
Yeah, these sprint races, they're so much fun. You and I were able to see these races up close and personal, if you will. And when I say it's not uncommon to see a sprint race, but when you see the caliber of the horses, the thoroughbreds at a Breeders' Cup event, it is just another level. It reminds me of the time I got to attend the LA Olympics back in '84, and to watch those guys run track and field. That was a whole different thing than watching a high school track meet and a college track meet, let me tell you. And that's what this is going to be this weekend. In this particular race, I do like a 5-horse Living the Dream. Absolutely, very much a contender. And then also 10 Motoris that you talked about, 7 Nobles that you talked about, all 3 of those. One of the horses that I was following was the number 2 horse, Bradzel, out of Great Britain. Bradzel got pulled this morning. Bradzel's not going to race, and so Bradzel is no longer on my ticket. But the one I can't, I tried to talk myself out of it, and I can't. The horse that won it last year, 40-1, Caravel. Caravel is going to be back in there, running out of the 3 spot. So Caravel's looking to do let's see if we can duplicate last year's effort. Not doing too bad this year, so far in the career, pulled almost $2 million, so it's doing something right. Watch for Caravel to be a contender in this one. Again, it's that same thing. Broken record, 1 race. What are you going to give me in a sprint? So let's go. Let's hit it. And out of the 3 position, I like the spot as well. I think that's a perfect spot for Caravel. Watch Caravel, the 3 horse, currently at 5-1 to definitely make a race for it. Don't be surprised if Caravel doesn't end up in the winner's circle for a repeat of last year.
That would be incredible. Won't pay out what we saw last year. Probably, I think that was the biggest upset of last year's Breeders' Cup at 42-1. Incredible. And who knows, with Bradzel, I don't know the exact, I guess procedure and all that stuff, but I would assume that means one-timer is in. But once again, don't quote me on anything. I'm just kind of going with some assumptions here. And a wise man once told me, every time you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. So I'm not going to do that. But I believe that could be the case. So moving on to race number 11, which technically will be the last Breeders' Cup race. This will be going off at 5 o'clock here on the West Coast, 8 p.m. on the East Coast. It is the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Sprint. It's 6 furlongs on the dirt, a $2 million purse. I'll get this one started. The main horse that does jump out to me here, a lot of speed, a lot of splitting the hairs, and I think it's going to come down to the 2 outside posts. I think it's going to come down to Elite Power versus Gunite. Gunite 2-1 versus Elite Power, winning the last one. We go back to the Farigo, beat Elite Power by a length and a half with Irad Ortiz aboard. It's going to be an interesting race. It's more than just these 2 horses, but Gunite and Elite Power are definitely at the top of my ticket. Currently, Elite Power is 9-5. It's the only reason I'm giving Gunite a little bit of more of a nudge, just because at 4-1, I think it offers more value. Also keep an eye on the Chosen Brawn. This is a horse that hasn't lost in quite some time. Let me just see where we're at. I got to go back all the way to August 27th of 2022 at Del Mar. Was a 20-1 shot. Didn't get the job done that day, but since then, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 straight wins for the Chosen Brawn, including kind of capping it in the Bing Crosby, where myself included, I wanted to see this horse win at this level. It was running a lot of ungraded stakes races, a lot of, grade 2, which is great, which is cool, but the grade 1s are a different story. Ran very well in the Bing Crosby, beat Anarchist and Dr. Scheibel, who is also running in this race. But I do also like the Chosen Brawn to keep an eye on those other 2 horses. Pure value here, American Theorem. Now, we're going to have to go back to August and July 2022 form when this horse was running in the 104s, 101s. Currently 30-1. Don't expect this horse to get in the money. However, this is a sprint race. A lot of crazy things can happen. See Caravel last year, 30-1. American Theorem, I think, is at the very least worth a look for you. And Speedboat Beach is another horse that may make it on my ticket. Currently, don't love the value at 3-1, but I love the jockey trainer combo. Hall of Fame jockey trainer combo of Bob Baffert and Mike Smith. Very good on dirt. They really wanted to get this horse on turf, going, at least 1, maybe 2 turns. It did not work out. Put this horse back sprinting on dirt and back into the 103s. So keep an eye. Speedboat Beach currently at 3-1. Not a ton of value, but I do expect some of these numbers to inflate, especially with the 8 and the 9. I think going to get a lot of the money. But Raider Jim, what are your thoughts? The Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Sprint.
Yeah, not like any of these horses aren't a who's who, but based on what you and I do week in and week out, and the way we follow it, and there's so many familiar West Coast names here, and I'm just going to go right down the line, almost like you did. It is going to be the 8 and 9 horse, Elite Power and Gunite. Those are going to be great. That's going to be a great race, especially if it lives up to the hype. But don't sell short, as you said, number 6, the Chosen Brawn. The Chosen Brawn at 5-1. Got to put that one on your ticket as an underneath. I do like the 3 horse Speedboat Beach. At the same time, at 3-1, I'm not sure that it's really there. How it's getting 3-1 is beyond me. But at the same time, we're not paid to be professionals. We're just a couple amateur guys that sit here and do this for fun, if you will. But I don't know about Speedboat Beach on my ticket, but I do see the 2 horse Dr. Scheibel on my ticket. Dr. Scheibel's been around. Dr. Scheibel won the last time out, and at 5-1, if you're looking for a horse with good value to put in underneath on your ticket, you can't go wrong with 6, the Chosen Brawn at 5-1, and Dr. Scheibel, the 2 horse at 5-1. I like Dr. Scheibel in the 2 position as well.
Yeah, Dr. Scheibel is kind of has been a kind of a mainstay on the sprint side of things. I want to go back all the way, maybe even to 2021 when we were breaking down the Del Mar side of things. Dr. Scheibel was a horse that we definitely talked about as well. But yeah, as you said, definitely a who's who, as all of these races are. But these 6 furlongs, these sprints, these 1 turns, I don't want to say it's a coin flip, but as close to a race of this caliber can be with these horses, I don't know. Keep an eye on some of those, some of these kind of underneaths. But moving on to the true main event, whether the Breeders' Cup wants to put it at the end or not, although I think myself and Raider Jim both kind of realize it's probably because it's on a college football Saturday on NBC, and they kind of want to get everything done and dusted for the pregame show. So this is race number 9. It's the Breeders' Cup Classic. It's the richest race in North America, and essentially the best of the best end up here. This will be race number 9. This will be going off at 3:40 on the West Coast, 6:40 on the East Coast. Do the math in between. A mile and a quarter on the dirt for all 3-year-olds. Raider Jim, give us your thoughts. on the big race, the
Well, it
Breeders'
was really,
Cup
yeah, a
race.
real shame. I think it was last week or over the weekend, and I sent you the text that said, guess what? Arcangelo's not running in the Breeders' Cup Classic. And that's where that was going to be the leader on my ticket. But moot point, because Arcangelo isn't going to be running in the Breeders' Cup Classic. What happens with that? All that money's going to go somewhere else. So right now at 4-1, I will tell you, it's a 14-horse field, I believe, 13-horse field. I like the 8-horse out of Japan, Ushba Tesoro at 4-1. This horse is a winner. It's a winner. It's fast. It's earned a lot, and I think it's just going to come out on that track on Saturday and make a real statement for the owners and trainers of that horse. And of course, I like the 12-horse Arabian Night. What can you say about Arabian Night? Arabian Night is at 3-1 right now. I'm trying to change my screen. Yeah, we've got Bob Baffert, Flavian Pratt. They're familiar with the West Coast. They're familiar with the track. They're having great workouts from what I've seen or what I've read. So as a 12-horse Arabian Night at 3-1, perfect. And then the other horse at 4-1 is number 3, White Abario. Watch White Abario on this one. Not going to be disappointed to finish anywhere but in the money. It's going to be definitely an in the money horse. Underneath, who do you want to have? If you want to have a couple horses to fill in underneath, you got to give a strong look at 12-1 to Saudi Crown, the 6-horse. Is a fast break horse, and so fast break in the Classic could be good. Definitely is going to help establish the pace. And last time out, got a win in the Penn Derby with that fast break speed. So watch the 6-horse at 12-1, Saudi Crown. Keep an eye on those numbers, and even the 2-horse Zandon, who we've talked about more than 10 times on this podcast, at 12-1. One spot off the rail. I really like that as well.
Yeah, the horse that for me that does jump out, I think for value and speed, is that 3-horse White Abario. One of the big reasons why, look, it's very rare that we've talked about Cody's Wish losing out. Well, it did lose out not only to White Abario, but it also did lose out to Zandon in the Whitney. We were talking about that Breeders' Cup, the Dirt Mile. Of course, I did kind of say, it was a bit of a step back for Cody's Wish. However, for White Abario and Zandon, that's huge. Ran very well. I really like White Abario here, especially at 4-1. Like you as well, I really do like where did it go? Arabian Night as well. Kind of underneath the Bob Baffert, Flavian Pratt. Can't go wrong there. The 3-year-old though, I do wonder, you don't see obviously Flightline last year, but you don't see too many 3-year-olds get to this spot in their 3-year-old year. The other part of Arabian Night, we talked about it. I forget which horse it was on Tuesday, but Arabian Night cost $2.3 million at auction. So a lot of expectations for this horse. Halfway to getting that money back. Already made $1.2 million. A win here would go a very long way towards getting some of that back. You also did talk about Ushba Tesoro, the 8-horse out of Japan. Might be the best Japanese horse, at least on paper, that I've seen ever here at the Breeders' Cup. Now, obviously, Love's Only You, and there was another one that unfortunately is escaping me. Did, of course, break, that streak of Japanese horses not getting in the winner's circle back to back. So I'm not discounting those horses, but in terms of just on paper, Ushba Tesoro, I mean, to be 4-1 in the Breeders' Cup Classic for a Japanese horse, considering 2 years ago they never even had a Breeders' Cup win, I think that's huge. And I kind of expected that to kind of spur that to get rolling. And bear with me because I do have a lot of horses that I did want to talk about. The other one that I did want to bring up as well is Derma Sotogake. I don't know if it's going to make it on my card purely because we haven't seen this horse run since the Kentucky Derby. That feels like 3 lifetimes ago in horse racing world. And went off its 8-1, which for a Japanese horse, I don't quote me on it, but I have to feel like that was the shortest odds we've ever seen from a Japanese horse in the Kentucky Derby. Ran well, 8 lengths off the lead, finished 6th in a 20-horse field. So something to keep an eye on there. I'm more intrigued by what we're going to see out of Derma Sotogake more than actually wanting to bet on that horse. And then some more, let me just make sure I'm covering it here. Bear with me. The 10 horse. Look, pure value side of this. This horse has only won $350,000. I understand that. And doesn't have a huge amount. And I think you might have brought up Dreamlike, a 104 in the Pennsylvania Derby at 30-1. I think it's worth a look. Give the opportunity. Now, this is not a race where you expect the big time long shots to come in. However, I will keep an eye on that one. My final one that I am going to talk about is at 12-1, all the way on the outside. It's Proxy. Not a fan of the post position here, but for a horse that essentially, I mean, overall, one of its lowest recent runs has been a 92. Sprinkle in some 97, some 96s, but last time out ran a 103. Wasn't good enough to beat Bright Future, who's also in this race, but at 12-1, keep an eye on Proxy. I think there's some value there, but this might be a race that, obviously I want to bet every single race. However, sometimes you just want to sit back and enjoy. This might be that race because there are a lot of opportunities to maybe, get caught up. I think I talked about 6 of the 12 horses that are going to be running in this race. And if Arcangelo was in this, it would have been 7 out of 13. So that kind of just tells you how wide open not only this race is, but really this entire weekend here at the Breeders' Cup. It's not going to be easy to make some money, but I cannot wait to see if, my handicapping or our handicapping kind of translates on the track there. But Raider Jim, any final thoughts as essentially this is it? We are officially Breeders' Cup ready.
Well, first and foremost, it's let's pray to whoever or send out the good thoughts to whatever you believe in, and let's keep all the riders and let's keep all the thoroughbreds happy, safe, and healthy over the entire weekend. And I'm sure the crowds are going to be fine. Everybody's going to behave themselves. They usually do at all the big thoroughbred meets. But for those horses, let's just hope that it is a nice, safe, healthy weekend. Looking forward to see all the jockeys come out of it unscathed as well. Really looking forward to see Mike Smith maybe add a couple more notches in his Breeders' Cup belt. He is so far ahead of everybody else at 27 wins. It'd be nice to see him to get to 30. I'm sure he's going to have enough mounts to do that, and we'll see what he's got going on by tomorrow. I'm sure he's going to end up at 27, 28 because I think he's riding Tamara tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, and that should be a shoe-in on that one. And other than that, I think let me step away from the track for a minute. And somebody that we were talking about last night and somebody that is near and dear to us as Padre fans, the old skipper himself, Bruce Bochy. Class act as a player, class act as a manager, and a successful manager. He is so accomplished. And if you look at some of the other managers who have done what he's done, it's a very, very small elite group. And congratulations to the skip and coming out of retirement to do what he did with those Texas Rangers.
Amen. Very, very pro Bochy city here in San Diego, although I don't think there are any anti-Bochy cities, and if there are, that's probably a them problem and more a reflection.
Everywhere he goes, he brings you a trophy.
Yeah, I mean he's probably one of the most universally liked managers in all of baseball. I very, very proud of him. Very, congratulations to the Texas Rangers. Unfortunately for us Padre fans, the Padres and Brewers are now the only 69 expansion teams not to win a World Series. So hopefully we can break that here soon. But I want to echo what you kind of started your final thoughts off with, the safety of everyone involved this weekend. It's been a tough summer. I keep going back to it. But both myself and Raider Jim, I feel like on back-to-back weekends, we had moments where we were a little bit sick to our stomach from what we saw on the track. And I pray, and however you want to go about it, that we don't see that first and foremost, but that all of these horses, all of these jockeys, stable hands, everyone looks back on it and their biggest complaint was, oh, you know what? Maybe I should have gone for that, or I should have done this rather than some other extracurriculars or something like that. But I will say Arcangelo, I hope that kind of starts, because I can't even imagine the connections of Arcangelo. And I know they were kind of blasé about it, but to have a horse not only be running in the Breeders' Cup, but to be a favorite, and for you to have the wherewithal to go, you know what? We're not going to chance it. My hat goes off to those connections, and I hope that does start to become more of a trend to a point, because I don't want to see, the top horses being scratched late, but I do want to see the top horses run. So it's kind of like you have to sacrifice us seeing Arcangelo in the Breeders' Cup Classic to see this horse survive, because the horse has also been retired, I believe, from what I saw, which is probably the right way to go about it. And we talk a lot about the stable fees and the stud fees and stuff like that. A lot of money on that side of it. So best of luck to all of them and everybody, gamblers, patrons, vendors, everyone who's involved in the Breeders' Cup. Best of luck. And then, of course, to our listeners, best of luck. I hope we meet you all at the window when it's all said and done. But with that,
I'm not anybody's dad or grandpa that's listening to this, but set your budget. Don't go beyond it. If you blow it all on Friday, you walk away. But bets, as I often say when we round up and end up the original call to post, bet smart and bet safe.
Amen. Make sure your rent's paid as well. It's the first of the month, so if your rent isn't paid yet, maybe you just spectate and you don't gamble. But once again, don't want to tell anyone how to live, but that's probably the smart way to go about it. But with that being said, thank you all so much for listening to this very special edition of the original Call to Post here on the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are first. It's time for y'all to go wash your hands and stop hating everybody. We'll talk to y'all very soon. Take care.
Riders up.